Shirley?
Moving a university is like moving a cemetery. You cannot expect any help from the inhabitants. Great value, and I think we will continue to see tremendous growth in this. Moving a university is like moving a cemetery. You cannot expect any help from the inhabitants.
Knowledge to learning how to learn
and take advantage of all the things we know about engagement and gaming and
moving a university is like moving a cemetery.
general education from
knowledge
is on right now. At the end of this,
take advantage of all the things we know
this is
about
something that you can do now and come out of it like stronger together. General education enabler from students how to knowledge right now. They're gonna become mentors, walking students through the learning process.
I think we'll be moving into an integration of synchronous and asynchronous learning, whether it's online or not.
It's really getting them comfortable. You know, it's really providing the proper explanation about why this tool, you know, is so unique and so impactful and can really change people's lives.
I think most universities won't change, but the big change will be that some will.
The big thing that's going to hit us is a major demographic shift in the country. Probably won't have a huge impact on elite universities other than to make them even more impossibly elite than they already are.
We have
much more multidisciplinary studies in order to equip students with tools for an uncertain world.
We have to uplift the positions of the teachers. We have to talk about excellency, meaning not to compromise about the quality, the diversity, the inclusion.
With new certificates of relevance to the various professions that will be as highly regarded and highly coveted and meaningful.
Good afternoon, everybody. So nice to see so many of you, and thank you for bearing with us during the technical issues at the beginning, but we're all learning this as a new language, so it'll take us some time, and that's quite all right. It's part of the learning curve. So we're going to spend the next hour or so together, focusing really on a relational approach to education and how that impacts us in a digital world. And because this is relational, rather than tell you about Laurie or read a story of Laurie, I really wanted to take a moment to introduce you to my friend and to my colleague and fellow Torontonian who will be co-facilitating this session with me, Laurie Palatnik. Laurie was the founding director of Momentum, formerly known as the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project. She is a well-known writer, speaker, educator, personality who has lectured all over the world. In fact, Laurie has written 4 books, Friday Night and Beyond, Gossip, Remember My Soul, and Turn Your Husband into Your Soulmate. I highly recommend all of these books. Excellent reading, and Laurie is a fantastic writer. Laurie was named as one of the 10 women to watch by Jewish Women's International. She was named by Hadassah as one of the most outstanding Jewish American women, global Jewish part of the Global Jewish 100 by Izzy, and most recently, in 2020, the Israel government actually invited Laurie, our Laurie, who we get to speak with, to light the diaspora torch at the 72nd Independence Day ceremony, which is a tremendous, tremendous honor, both for Laurie and for Momentum. And Laurie lives with her husband in Jerusalem, and she is actually speaking to us from Jerusalem right now. So everybody, say hello to Laurie.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone. Okay, yes, I am coming to you from Jerusalem. It's a little bit late at night here, but it's such a pleasure to be on this with you. Michael rocks. I have to tell you that, first of all, the most important thing to know about Michael is that he is a fellow Canadian. He grew up in Eastern Canada. He's now coming to us from Toronto, that's the old country where I was born and bred. Michael he sits on the educational committee of Momentum because he comes with incredible background, both academic and experiential. And when he is the senior educational consultant at the iCenter. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the iCenter, I really encourage you to go onto their website. It has nothing to do with your eyes, but it has everything to do with Israel. And his background in working with Canada-Israel experiences and next generation initiatives with the Jewish Federations of Canada. We don't call it the Federation in Canada, we call it the UIA. Well, his background was really engaging young Jews and young Canadian Jews and making sure that they have a connection to Israel, both with the immersive experiences in Israel and now with the iCenter. So he holds a Bachelor of Arts from York. He went to Osgoode Hall Law School, which, Michael, I was on my way to Osgoode. That was one of my dreams at one point, but gave that up. And he went to U of T. He also has an Executive Master's of Arts in Jewish Professional Studies from Spertus Institute for Jewish Learning and Leadership. So Michael also, we have an annual leadership conference, and we had it in Washington, D.C. area. And Michael came and he gave an incredible presentation on how, for adults in an experiential way, how to connect to Israel. And it was very innovative, and that's what Michael's all about. So it's really a pleasure to be able to share this session with Michael.
Thank you, Laurie. What I said before was so nice, but I was on mute. Thank you so much. We're going to jump right into it now. And just to let you know the format of our time together, in a couple of moments, we are going to split you into 2 rooms. One room will be with Laurie and one room will be with me. And for those of you that are in a room with one of us, really wishing that you were going to be in the room with the other one of us, don't worry, because after about 20 minutes, we're going to flip you. So you will have the opportunity.
No. We're not going to flip you. We're going to flip. You stay where you are.
Thank you so much, Laurie. What would I do without Laurie? We are going to flip rooms, and so you'll hear from both of us, and then we'll come back to sort of wrap it up in the last 5 minutes. So somebody who is more technologically advanced than me, please press that magic button, and we'll see you soon. Bear with us. This sometimes just takes a moment to get everybody worked out.
This is the Startup Nation. It's Israeli. Startup Nation. No worries.
ממנו אולי אפשר לבנות תוכנית לימודים לכיתה ב' וג'.
אני יכולה להוסיף את זה
Okay, we clearly have some technical difficulties here. And do not worry about trying to get into a room. They're trying to get you into the room. So it's not that you have to do anything. As I see on the chat, people are confused, but our tech people are going to make this happen somehow. And in the meantime, Michael, are you there?
So Michael left to the breakout room. He's going to start his session now. You're going to start yours. And in 20 minutes, we're going to
are we in the session?
Yeah, we're at the session. We're all good. All good.
We are in the session. Welcome to the session. Sorry, everybody. Okay. So as you see, I'm Laurie Palatnik, and all of you, I don't know about you, but I've been I'm over Zoomed, and with Momentum, like our normal experience is going to Israel and having an 8-day incredible transformational experience for women. And then they do a 1-year like follow-up when they get back with their local organization. We have over 200 partner organizations in 32 countries. So we've like flipped it on its head. So instead of the women now going to Israel at the beginning of the experience, we are now reaching them online through this Zoom. And in terms of engaging them and into the Momentum year and inspiring them and empowering them with knowledge. But you see that so much of teaching, so much of really effective teaching is relationship. So how can you possibly have a relationship on this crazy Zoom world that we're in? And I'm always saying that between the teaching and the meetings, to me, like Gehenna, hell, is a Zoom meeting that you just can't get out of. You're just trying to leave, and nobody lets you out. So how do we create this relationship online? It's not simple. The relationship is not just when you think like, oh, what is it? Just teacher-student? It's more than that. So Tal, if you could bring up I have a little outline here for you that we're going to go through. There are really 4 types of relationships. All right. They're really when you're talking about relationship learning. So one is the student to the teacher, that relationship. You have student to student, and you also have the student to the subject itself, and the relationship with even the concept of learning, because we're dealing with adults who are our primary target at Momentum are adults who really don't have a strong background in terms of their Jewish education. They are much more disconnected. And so just getting them into the idea of learning in itself. So I'm going to start with, we're going to start with number 2, which is the relationship between the people learning themselves, student to student. So I want you to open up your chat now. I want you to chat in. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do in order to get to know each other. Okay, like we're all in this together. So in order to get to know each other, I want you to chat in now that with where you're from, like your city, like where you're sitting right now, not where you were born, but where are you right now? And an optional is, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Okay, so you just put in, not optional is your city, optional is your favorite flavor of ice cream. So I'm in Jerusalem, and my favorite flavor of ice cream, when I was growing up anyway, was chocolate mint chip. Okay, here they go. Oh, lots of nuts, lots of almonds. We had Denver, Florida, Wilmington, LA, Baskin Robbins. Oh, lots of chocolate fudge. Coffee, like that. Madison, Wisconsin, Cincy, Illinois. Where in Illinois? What city, Miriam? Boca. I see Michigan, Evanston. Black cherry goat cheese. Okay, Rachel, you win. You win the most unusual ice cream flavor ever. Okay, does that really exist? Black cherry goat cheese. Very cool. Okay. And the person who's from Cincinnati, it was some of the best ice cream I ever had in my life was in Cincinnati. There's this homemade kosher ice cream place that's like so awesome. I don't know if anybody in Cincy knows. Yes. Oh, Michael, you know that one? Best ice cream ever. Yeah, graders. Worth going back to Cincinnati. Okay. Also terrific people in Cincinnati. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for chatting in. That was great. That was awesome. So that's something, it's a tool that I use often, because here you are on a Zoom. You got all these different squares, and people are really, it's very hard to make a connection to each other, because when you have women, when on our trips, when we have the women in front of us, and as a teacher, as an instructor, I don't know how many of you are educators yourself, but it's hard to make that personal connection, because often when I'm on a Zoom, not only do I don't see, sometimes I see some people, you're seeing a limited amount. It's hard to see their reaction. It's very hard when they're blacked out. And one thing we ask people is to open up, and we appreciate it when you open up your video so we can see you, a little bit of reaction. And you do adjust to it. Though you can adjust to it as an educator, that sometimes you don't see anybody in front of you, but you see you have glitches. Like all this electronics and all this tech support you saw at the beginning of this session, right? There was a problem with the sound of the video. Then there was a problem with the looping of the video. And then we were breaking out into rooms, and I didn't even know I was in the room, and these things happen. I was interviewed on I-24 a few minutes ago live, and my husband's phone goes off in the middle of the interview, okay? Like my husband's phone's ringing. So what do? Do I get up and I walk away and I shut off his phone? Like he's not in the room, he's outside, he doesn't know it's ringing. So I just kept going on with it ringing in the background. So listen, but I have 4 goals which are linked to these relationships. No matter what I'm teaching, no matter what I'm teaching about or who's in front of me, whether I can see them or not, I have 4 goals. And this is something that I think you can apply whether you're a Jewish educator or you're trying to engage anybody. Even if you're trying to engage your family, these 4 goals are very important. So we're going to talk about the learner-teacher relationship now. So the first thing, my first goal, whether I'm talking about love, dating, and marriage, or I'm talking about soul in the afterlife, or I'm talking about Israel, the first thing is they should like me. Okay, the first thing is they should like me. So what do you mean, like me personally? No, I may never meet these people again. I mean, I'm speaking in Madrid. Okay, I'm not going to see these people again. Why do I want them to like me? Why do you want, when you're speaking to your children, okay, why do you want them to like you? Because then they'll be open to what you're saying. So often I am the only, I'm often a very unusual speaker in somebody's world. First of all, I'm dealing with adults, and they're not used to learning. Their memories of Hebrew school and Jew jail, and which is what we called it in Toronto, are very prevalent. And this is they're waiting for something boring. They're waiting for something irrelevant. They're waiting for like the bar mitzvah lesson. So one thing is that you want them to like you, and you want them to sort of throw out the misconceptions of and the preconceived ideas of who you are. So, and if they like you, and often, you know, there's a lot of rabbis on the circuit, and there's not a lot of women speaking. So often they haven't heard from necessarily a Jewish women educator. And I happen to be more on the observant side. And so they also have their ideas of that as well. I have to tell you that I spoke years ago, I spoke in Brazil. I was speaking in Brazil. And I remember they speak Portuguese in Brazil. So they had they had somebody in a soundproof booth who was translating for me. So fine, I get up there, and there's about 80 women in front of me. And I start speaking, and my marriage class, they asked for my marriage talk. And so my marriage class is very funny. And for the first 15 minutes, honestly, there was zero reaction. So if you're the speaker and there's zero reaction in front of you, and like, you see, like, here I am, like, I have no idea how you're reacting to what I'm saying. Like, I hope everything's going well, but you know, it's very, it's hard, again, when you're not getting the immediate reaction. And standing in Brazil was an example. So I'm standing in Brazil, I'm speaking away. So one part of me is speaking, and the other part is thinking, either I'm really doing poorly, or the translator is really doing a bad job and not translating properly. Anyway, after about 15 minutes, they all started laughing, and they're like, really, like, they were laughing so much, we had to stop the talk to wait till the laughter was over, and they were completely engaged. Talk is over. So I go up to the woman who invited me to Brazil, and I said, what happened in the first 15 minutes? And she said to me, they were shocked. They were just in shock. I go, why? They said they're used to rabbis, you know, pointing their finger and telling them they're going to burn in hell. Okay. They just never heard this before. So when they like you, again, not for you personally, they're open to what you're about to say. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they should be blown away at the unbelievable relevancy of what you're teaching them. That this is not dusty Bible stories. This is not men in robes walking through sand dunes. This is about you. This is about your life. The women on the momentum trips will come up to me after, let's say, a marriage talk, and they'll say, you know what, Laurie, I think you just saved my marriage. And I tell them, I didn't save your marriage. Your Torah saved your marriage. This is all from your Torah, but they have no idea, because again, we grew up, my husband said in Chicago, they called it the 13 and out club. Okay. You're done your time and you're out of it. Now that you're a mature adult, when we present, anybody here who's listening, when you're involved in Jewish education, and when you present Judaism that has to do with their life, Torah Chaim, instructions for life. How to choose the right person to marry, how to have a great marriage, how to raise great kids, how to be successful in business, how to realize your potential. It's in there. It's the instruction book for life. But everybody saw the movie and nobody read the book. And the book is always better than the movie. The people of the book, and we didn't read the book. So what I do is, and what we try to do, and I think that it's important for anybody here in Jewish education, is to blow them away at how unbelievably relevant this is for their life today. And you give them something that as soon as they walk out, they can apply to their life. So number one, they should like me. Number two, they should be blown away at the unbelievable relevancy of their Torah, and you should give them something that as soon as they walk out, that they can put it into action. So another thing is, again, this idea of people need people. Make sure that they engage with each other on this platform. And so one of my goals when I'm teaching is to try to get them to, like, whether it's a breakout session, which is something that is sometimes works quickly and sometimes works slowly. So one thing is that. And another thing is, like, you can, through the chat, you can get them connecting to each other. It's amazing in this crazy Zoom virtual world, how they can be connected. One of the things that we've done with Momentum in the last while is we've done virtual road trips. And virtual road trips is like, I'm coming to Florida, and then we announce it. And then all the women who are alumni, and again, we have 20,000 of them around the world, the Florida women come on, and they love to see each other. They love to see each other. They love to meet each other. It's like a reunion there. And sometimes at the beginning, it's a little bit of a Brady Bunch and where are you? But it's amazing how people can adapt to it. And again, the tool that I used of where you're coming from and the ice cream is something that can happen. So the other thing is that you want to leave them wanting more. I always say when I'm teaching, like, oh, but that's another class, or that's another thought. Now, when I first started doing that, was so they would invite me back to the city. Oh, but that's a different talk. Now, I'm not coming back to your city because there's no way for me to come back. And now no one's going anywhere. But what you want them to do, you want them to know that there's so much more. There's so much more to learn. So you can say that, this is something like, you give an example of something. Well, we're not going to go into that now. That's a different talk. Or I urge you to look into it. Because again, you want them to have a relationship with the topic and the desire to learn more. A relationship with learning itself. So when we are dealing with adults, and I think that Michael deals more with people who are younger, they've been out of school for a while. So the idea of even learning, it takes a while to get that muscle going. But when you show them in a way that, and no matter what talk I'm giving, you're taking them on a journey. You're holding their hand, and you're saying to them right at the beginning, trust me, I'm taking you somewhere. So that means speak on point. Don't have a topic and you've been advertised saying this and you don't even go there. Like, you have to make sure that they know that they came for a reason to hear you on this subject, stay on subject, but you're taking them on a journey. And part of that journey is it has to be enjoyable. There are times where they should laugh. Even in my talk on soul in the afterlife, there's heavy stuff going on. But there are times that they laugh, and there are times that they should cry. And it's a tremendous responsibility to take them on that journey. And you want them, you always have a goal at the end that they should be able, if somebody wasn't there and they come out of another session, oh, really? Like, and they say, hopefully they say, she was great. What did she say? So if they say, oh, she was so funny and she was so great, but what did she say? If they can't articulate what you said, if they can't sum it up what you said, then something went wrong. Because there's two parts as a presenter. There is content and there is presentation. You have to have both. If you have great content, but you have poor presentation and you're just presenting it like this, and now we'll get to the next point, and then they're asleep. And if you have great presentation, you're entertaining and they're laughing and they're crying, but there was no content. They can't even say what you said. Then it's kind of like Chinese food. Like, you're like you're hungry an hour later and you kind of feel ripped off. So you have to have both. You have to have both. So all of this you can apply to many things, okay? Many things in your life. You can, whether you're giving a bar mitzvah lesson, and today, like, I don't know about you, I've been on Zoom funerals, I've been on Zoom brisses, I've been on Zoom weddings. We've had to reinvent ourselves, and that's good. We've had to reimagine ourselves, and that's great. It's a new world. It's really just, we were going this way anyway. The Almighty just pressed the fast forward button. So there are people I know who were really kind of like going along in terms of their organization or their education. And just like we were ignited and to pivot to be able to use this medium in a proper way. So you have to too. This is the new normal. And I do want to say that if we go back to the way it was in any aspect of our life, then what we went through was for nothing. It was for nothing. And it can't be for nothing. We have to emerge as better people, committed to making a better world. And we have to reimagine how to reach people, how to reach Jews around the world. I've been saying that this is a combination this time of Gilligan's Island and the Jetsons, okay? It's Gilligan's Island because, we're shipwrecked. And did you ever play the game like, if you have to be shipwrecked on a desert island, who do you want to be with? Well, you don't have to wonder because God already decided. So this is who but we also were the Jetsons. We remember the Jetsons when you would go on and you would call somebody and you would see them. That was futuristic. That was incredible. That was unbelievable and unimaginable. And now we have it. So even though the Almighty is sending a tremendous task, we know that he sends the refuah before the makkah. He sends the solution even before the challenge. So even before we had to be put in bidud, in quarantine, shipwrecked on our island, well, he already gave us the technique, all the technical things that we needed in order to make it work. And I do have to tell you also that it's incredible insights that are happening during this time. And you need to appreciate and to focus in on the blessing of the opportunity to reimagine everything. Online education, our relationships, our future. We were put in timeout. And when you're put in timeout, you better think about your actions. All right, so I think we're moving on. Well, how much time do we have, Tal? I think we're moving back.
1 minute.
Pardon?
You have 1 minute left.
1 minute left. Okay, 1 minute left and we're moving out. So please know that at the end, we're going to have questions at the end. Michael and I decided we're not going to have any answers. We're just going to have questions. Okay. Are we in a new meeting or did we just switch?
No, we're still here. Laurie and I will move to the other room. Michael and Melissa.
Tal and I are going to pack our bags up. We're going to move to the other room, and you're going to benefit from Michael and his incredible innovation in terms of Israel education and engagement. So we're moving over. Yes. I just don't want to stop in the middle of a word.
Just waiting for Michael and Melissa to move here. Just a second.
אני פה איתך, מייקל איתי.
Okay, I'm back. I never really left. So hello, everybody. Sorry, that was a bit weird. I was stuck in the other room and I couldn't figure out how to get out, but I got out. So I'm here with all of you. So this is going to be really fun. I'm going to put you on gallery so I can scroll back and forth and see some of the people that are here, some of whom I know, some of whom I hope to get to know, and welcome. So what we are going to do, first of all, I hope you guys all had a good time with Laurie. Thumbs up, clapping, some, awesome. I hate to disappoint you. She's better than me. So, this might be a bit anticlimactic for you, but it's okay. Being second fiddle to Laurie, this I can live with. So I am Michael, and we're going to spend 20 minutes together. And what we're going to do is really look at this notion of relational and what does a relational approach mean and what is at the core of good Israel and Jewish education. And I would argue that at the core of good Jewish and Israel education is good education and good pedagogy. And if you don't have good educational practice and you don't have good pedagogy, then everything else is really going to be an uphill battle. So what we are going to do is, in a moment, I'm going to share my screen with you. And in doing so, I'm going to share 5 principles of a relational approach, in this case to Israel education. I wish I could take credit for them, but they are not mine. They belong to Professor Barry Chazan, a colleague and good friend, and are outlined in much greater detail in his book, A Relational Approach. We'll take 3 or 4 minutes just to go through those to give us the foundation, and then I'll introduce you to a very good friend of mine and what he has to say, named Parker Palmer. And we'll talk a little bit about what he has to say about education, and you'll get a chance to read and to share, and it's going to be awesome and it's going to be great. And I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that will work out as planned. So the sharing of the screen, the beginning of the presentation.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Okay. So everyone can see the screen, just thumbs up or, excellent. So don't worry about writing anything down. At the end of the session, you will get an email with both this presentation, the summary of it, and what Laurie shared with you. So just sit, listen, and focus on the words. The core principles of Israel education. Number 1, the subject of Israel education is not Israel. The subject of Jewish education is not Jewish. It is the person. So if you think of subject as subjects, then you recognize that we're focusing here on the learner. And this represents a learner-centered approach, where we focus on the individual learner and their relationship with the subject matter, which in this case is Israel or Jewish. 2, the goal of Israel education is also not Israel. It is the relationship between the learner and Israel and Israelis. So the goal is that relationship building. And 3rd, the aim of Israel education is not identity or continuity, but rather it is about the development of an ongoing, meaningful relationship between a person and Israel and Israelis. Young people today do not have only one identity, they have multiple identities. Perpetuating Judaism is less about continuity and more about each generation discovering and forging their own relationship with the subject matter. So this is about this development of this ongoing and meaningful relationship. Good Israel education encompasses a total culture of words, songs, voices, and experience. That is to say that if we introduce someone to Israel only through the political and historical texts, through the current events, then we miss many other opportunities that may in fact serve as a gateway for helping people to develop a relationship. So we're looking at primary text, we're looking at music, we're looking at art, we're looking at poetry, we're looking at Hebrew language, we're looking at visits to Israel. So the connection to Israel does not need to begin with the book of Exodus, neither the biblical one nor the one by Leon Uris, but rather the relationship with Israel can begin with a piece of graffiti that you may find scrawled on a wall in South Tel Aviv. And my favorite piece of graffiti, and any of you that have spent time in Tel Aviv will be familiar with it. It says, Im eshkacheach Yerushalayim, ze biglal Tel Aviv. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, it is because of Tel Aviv. And here we have a piece of ancient text and modern text. We have Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, old and new, observant and less observant, and it creates this whole complexity that you could actually teach a whole course on. And finally, the notion of Israel education requires new kinds of pedagogues. That's a fancy name for us, who can, 1, facilitate discussions and not just deliver monologues, who are familiar with the core narratives, not only the narratives to which they subscribe, but a diversity of narratives that create a diverse picture of all of the different stories that make up the state of Israel and the people of Israel, have the courage to be role models of Israel-related people, meaning that as educators, we too must have a relationship with Israel if our primary goal is to instill in our learners a relationship with Israel and Israelis. And finally, can teach from within. And of course, those air quotes come from the title of the book, Teach from Within by Parker Palmer, the great American educationist. He is not a Jewish educationist, He is a general educationist from Wisconsin, and his teachings and his approach and his philosophy really underlie a major foundation of the approach that we take. So in a moment, we're going to meet Parker Palmer, not actually meet him. We're going to meet him through some of his words. So I'm going to share a screen with you with half a dozen quotes that were taken from his book, A Courage to Teach. And what I would ask you to do is take a moment, look at the quotes, and choose one that speaks to you, resonates to you, that you connect with, that is a voice to you. And then in a couple of moments, we'll ask people to share with us the quote that they chose and their connection to it and relationship with it and how it has informed them. And we'll do that by just taking yourselves off mute and sharing. So here is the slide. Oh, that's the summary slide that you'll get. Here is the slide.
We're the ones that have to live with it. I mean, I'm not going to feel pressured because he wants to be done. I
So-
feel it was a myth.
I got muted too. So take a look through the quotes, choose one that speaks to you, and then in a moment or two, I will come back. Well, actually, I'm not going anywhere. I will just start talking again and ask people to share with us. So enjoy Parker Palmer.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Oh. I was told to unmute.
So taking into consideration that some of us may read faster than others, those of you who wish to continue reading and thinking can certainly do so. And those of you that would like to share, that will be great. I can only see one page of you at a time. So rather than waving, because you might be on the wrong page, just take yourself off mute and in a strong, firm voice, say, I am Susie Rodenstein. Hi, Susie. And share with us. And hopefully that will work. So whenever you're ready, let's hear what you got to say.
I'm happy to say something. I'm Judith Devons. And
thank you, Judith.
The quote that I am drawn to is the last one. The work required to know thyself is neither selfish nor narcissistic. Whatever self-knowledge we attain as teachers will serve our students and our scholarship well. Good teaching requires self-knowledge. It is a secret hidden in plain sight. Which I think is really pertinent, because often if we try to understand ourselves, we feel a bit self-centered. And it's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what Parker Palmer actually says, Judith, and thank you, because I forgot to mention it at the tail end. Parker Palmer says that educators preoccupy themselves with two questions. The first question is, what am I going to teach? And the second question is, how am I going to teach it? There's two other questions that are equally as important. And they are, who is the me that is teaching and what is my relationship to the subject matter? And to what end am I teaching this? And he says those two questions are as important as the first two. So, knowing yourself and your relationship is such a valuable asset as an educator, and it is not narcissistic or egocentric, but essential to learning. So, Judith, thank you for your words of wisdom. Who would like to chime in next?
Michael.
Yes.
Zip Cohen in Chicago. It's so nice to see you. It's been such a long time since San Diego.
Yes.
And I'm sorry we're not both in Israel together, but thank you. I hope you and your family are well. I love the first quote, which says, I'm a teacher at heart and I can hardly hold the joy. I just love teaching. And when I love teaching, then I love my students as well, and I love the content. So I like that very first quote, and thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Zev. And I met Zev a few months ago, and believe me, he loves teaching. This is a good man. Not that all of the rest of you aren't good people, but I just happen to know Zev. So,
my name is Rayanne, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, living there now. I also agree with Zev. I mean, the first quote spoke with me, and it is about pure joy. And when I teach kindergarten children, so when they learn something and they get so excited about having a new skill or just learning in general, it just brings joy to my heart.
absolutely. And I had an uncle who was a professor of law and later the dean at a law school. And what he used to say is, he said that moment when you see the light go on in their head, that they understand it, right? That they've been doing, and that moment, there's no greater joy than realizing that you now understand something that's going to sort of help you in monumental ways. So Rayanne, thank you for sharing.
Good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tina, we can.
Wonderful. The quote that resonates with me is, before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. And it resonates with me because I've been going, this period of COVID and sheltering in place has allowed me and others to really go into introspection and self-awareness and understand mindfulness. Somewhere that says that we are a collection of our experiences. And sometimes you want to run away from that identity. You mentioned it before, that we're a collection of different identities, and those identities stem from our positive and negative experiences that we regret, as well as our accomplishments and our achievements that we celebrate. So that resonates with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And the next, I'll be able to know exactly when everyone was born here. For those of you that remember the movie, it wasn't a great movie. It was called Mr. Destiny, starring Jim Belushi. And there was a great quote from that movie where he said, "You don't choose your destiny chooses you." And that really sort of stuck with me and resonates to that piece. We're so busy choosing what we're going to be and where we're going to go that often we don't listen to sort of that voice and those signs that sort of push us in one direction. So Tina, thank you for that. Who else? Anyone on
I
page?
like to practice. Okay.
Can I, Matt? Okay, Rahel Kaufman from Los Angeles. The first quote really resonated, but when my students and I discover uncharted territory to explore, I always wonder about the students I see. Out of, let's say, 20 students, there are always a few where either they're checked out or it's not resonating. Ideally, it's amazing when the teacher comes with so much enthusiasm to love and the teachers and uncharted territories, but I always think and notice the students who are maybe it's not resonating, not connecting to, and then stepping back and say, this is so exciting to me and the other students, but how do I engage everyone? And just always trying to strive to connect to every student, but the challenge of actually bringing material that every student connects to.
Absolutely, Rachel. And it's like, as teachers, it's this constant battle. We have the plan, right? We know where we need to get. And sometimes we get pulled off course. And there's that sort of that tension between, trying to pull us back on course and just going with it and going into these areas that we didn't plan for, that we don't know where it's going to take us. And now we're learning with the student, right? And those pit stops along the way, those unintended stops that our students, force us to go into or bring us into, are often where we and they have those amazing learning moments. Because, you can't plan life. Dewey's experience in education, he talks about those experiences that just sort of happen along the way. So thank you, Rachel, for giving us a window into that quote. I'm just looking at our time. And Shelley, how many? 5 minutes? Perfect. Thank you, Shelley. So is there anyone on page 2 that wants to share? I feel that I've been, really negligent of page 2.
Freundel, I don't know what page I'm on, but I'm happy to share.
Sharon, please. You're at my page 1, but you could be.
The quote that resonated for me is, good teaching cannot be reduced to technique. Good teaching comes from the identity and the integrity of the teacher. Over the course of 30 years in the classroom, periodically I polled the kids as to what the characteristics of their favorite teachers were. And every single year, the leading characteristic was the teacher believes in me and the teacher cares about me. That was followed by the teacher is passionate about what he or she teaches. But it's relationships. It's all about building the relationships, and then the transfer of knowledge both ways can more easily take place.
And thank you, Sharon. And if our students only get to meet us as teachers and know us as teachers and not know us as human beings, then we have missed a tremendous opportunity. Because we are human beings like them, and they're students and we're teachers, and we may not be relatable on that level, but they're human and we're human, and we are definitely relatable on that level. So the human side of us is so important, and Palmer sort of points to that in so many ways. I think we have time for one more ish, and then we'll try to tie a bow around this. And so who wants to have the last, well, not the last words, because I'll take those, but the famous almost last words?
I can go.
Michael, thank you.
Sure.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. Likewise. But I don't think this one's said. I've been on a lot of Zoom screen time today, but stories are the best way to portray realities of this sort. Which resonates just because it's very playful, I think, and there's something very playful about teachers being able to tell stories, and I think that's fun from a teaching standpoint, and also I think for the students it's very relatable because we're wired to hear stories and to know them and understand them, and to think that way. So I think that's a very effective and fun way to teach.
Absolutely. And if you all think back to those educators that you held sort of in the highest esteem or the highest regard or learned the most from, chances were they were anecdotal educators who shared, stories and brought you in. And we are a people of stories. We are the people of the book, which actually that term comes from Islam until we co-opted it. And for good reason, because of our many books. But sort of one way I like to turn that around is I like to say we are the people of the book, because each successive generation has the privilege and obligation to write the next chapter of this incredible story that is the Jewish people. So they shouldn't just be readers of the book or actors in the play. They need to be authors of the book and playwrights when it comes to the play. So before they bring the other group back in, which I think could happen imminently, I will say this. What I really wanted was a taste of understanding the notion of what a relational approach is and putting the learner at the center. And given the changing times, how our world has moved from classroom to screen, and please God, back to classroom on some level again, we mustn't lose sight of those core educational principles that I believe transcend the medium. And if we're focused on the relational and the relationship between the educator and the students with each other, and understand that they are the focal point of our teaching, then whether we do it on screen or in person, these will be effective educational experiences. So just because the medium changes, the core educational principles upon which our entire world is based, we should remain true to those and adapt ourselves to be able to adhere to those principles and continue to do the great work that we all are doing. So I want to thank you guys for sharing. I want to thank you guys for being in the room. In a perfect world, we would further subdivide into, a whole bunch of rooms of 8 or 10 and get to know each other even better. But let's see this as the beginning of a relationship between us and each other that will continue. You will get the handouts that we put up and have the opportunity to sort of learn more. And for those of you that don't know Parker Palmer well, maybe you just met him today or haven't met him in full swing, I strongly suggest that you read some of his books, watch some of his YouTube videos, because this guy is unbelievable and inspirational. And if you don't believe me, just ask Susie Rodenstein. Sorry, Susie, I'm picking on you, but you're right in the middle of my screen. So this is great. So I'm looking to Shelley. Time, we're good. They're going to come back in a moment.
Yeah, less than a minute. They're on their way back.
They're on their way back. It's a long
Yeah.
walk. Oh, I see
Exactly.
some of them coming in. So here we go. The people from the first group. So welcome back.
And just do, please, Michael, stop share so we can actually see everybody coming back.
You know what? Because yes, you're right.
Thank you.
Michael, I'm back. I'm back with you.
Hold on. I know I've got to stop sharing. Did I stop sharing? No.
Yes, very
Kelly
good.
made me stop sharing. Or somebody did. That's fine. Laurie, are you there?
I'm here, Michael. How you doing?
Welcome back. How was it for you? Good?
It was great group, and they have very unusual, yummy taste in ice cream.
Be honest. Which group was better, the first one or the second one? I'm kidding.
I'd love them both. No comparison.
Awesome. So folks, we have about 3 minutes left, and what we would love for you to do is not ask us questions, because we have no intention of answering any of them, but to really think to yourselves, what is a question I'm leaving with? And to write it in the box so we can share that with everybody as we sort of, end here. Because as the great Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai writes in one of his books, it's the great tranquility of answers and questions. And the only thing more beautiful than a beautiful answer, I would argue, is a beautiful questions, because that's what helps us learn. So throw them into the box. I'm going to pass it over to Laurie, and then when she calls on me, I'll read some of the questions, and then we'll wrap everything up and we'll all go home as friends. Sounds like a plan. I got a lot of thank yous and no questions.
I want, if somebody could maybe ask whether it's a question or your thoughts on what this Zoom life, all this technology, and perhaps something that is the greatest challenge of it, maybe the greatest challenge or the greatest advantage of it. Here we got a question. How can I make this relevant to second graders on Zoom? How can I build relationships with young learners if we don't get to start school in August? These are very important questions with kids. How will I shift some of my, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I just thought a different point. How will I shift some of my in-person teaching strategies to virtual in terms of addressing multiple learning styles of my students within the same class? They scroll, it's hard to read. What are the best strategies, apps, etc., that we can use over Zoom to develop relationships and facilitate learning? Over to you, Laurie.
What tools can we utilize to build relationships besides the typical ones we all use? Zoom has allowed me to collaborate with colleagues. It has opened up many opportunities. I have many years experience teaching experiential leadership online. I'm wondering how to leverage that experience in the current situation. Michael, you want to take it?
Absolutely.
Last question.
Apathetic students. We can't end
So
on
first
that.
of all, I'm dying to answer them, but I'm not going to answer these questions. How can I develop relationships with and between my students when they are not all able to consistently present in Zooms?
Yeah. So great questions. Continue to ask yourselves and your colleagues, and together, as we search for answers, we will invariably get to more questions. So Laurie, I believe there's a few announcements at the end of our time.
Yes, a few announcements, and then I want to give everybody a blessing. Okay, here's our announcements. Are you ready? Okay, first of all, I want to thank everybody who came on, all the attendees for taking the time to come to this breakout session in this 2-day Zoom Out e-summit. And thanks to the IAC and Innovative Learning and the Innovative Learning Center of Tel Aviv University for bringing the summit to Jewish educators from around the world. And there's going to be a short survey at the end, so please stay on for 1 minute. And I just want to give a blessing. First of all, I want to thank Michael, and I want to thank our tech support, but I want to thank Michael very much. It was really a pleasure doing this with you and preparing this. And I hope that our balance of where we're coming from and our styles helped you. And I want to give a blessing to all the Jewish educators out there. And even if you're not a formal Jewish educator, if you're a parent, you are an educator, that the Almighty should give you unbelievable clarity during these times, and to be open to innovation, to rethinking and reimagining. And also, once you have that clarity, to have the courage to live your clarity. Again, we're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm. Your boat is different than my boat, and her boat is different than his boat. So while you're in this boat, let's stay afloat, and let's get to a place, an incredible place that we couldn't even imagine before this. Because as I said in my session, if we go back to the way it was, this was for nothing. Thank you, Michael. Thank you,
Amen.
everyone.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody that joined us. We're going to end with a short clip. Thank you, everybody. Shelley, we can't see the clip. Sorry about that. In a minute.
We might have to skip it. There's some difficulty.
It seems that we're left alone here without the session. כן, לא פה, אליהם. מישהו...
Let's skip the video. Tammy, you want to just close it up?
Okay, so we have some difficulties. We'll skip the video. Thank you again, Laurie and Michael. Thank you, everybody that joined us. Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.